Okay, we're here in the garage now, and this is a quite large transformer. As you can see, it's 11 kVA, and I can't get the panel off. There we go. Okay, now this is a drive isolation transformer, is normally what it's used for, but in this case it's being used as a step-up, step-down transformer. And it's wired in star and delta. So the high voltage side, the 480 or 460 side, is wired in a star configuration. Or sorry, a delta configuration. The 480 side is wired in a delta configuration. And if you don't know what that means, well, you should probably go look that up or not be watching this video, because delta configurations normally deal with 480 volts, and that is not for most people to play with. So, if we have a look here at the nameplate, I'll let y'all focus on that for a second. Okay, you can see that is wired in a star and delta configuration. 11 kVA, 13.8 amps in and out. And I don't want it to be in a delta configuration anymore, because it is a three-phase transformer, but I'd also like to use it for single phase as well when I need to. So I thought of this. Since the high side is in a delta configuration, that means each winding, each leg of that is rated for 460 to 480 volts, whatever you're putting into it up there. And the low voltage side is rated for 260 from the leg to ground, or 460 from leg to leg, or line to line, whatever you want to call it. So I want to configure the transformer in such a way that I can use it as a direct step-up or step-down transformer, with both high side and low side in a star configuration. So this video, I guess we'll call it how to wire a transformer into a star-star configuration. So to get started, I'm going to show you the taps on the transformer, give y'all a close-up of that, and we can continue by rearranging the wires in such a way that we get a star-star transformer. So to start with this, as many of you may know, or may not know, transformers are dumb. And what I mean by that is, whatever voltage you put into it, it'll either double it or it'll half it, depending on which way you put it through. So if this is a step-down transformer, which it is originally intended for, then I can put 480 volts in and get 240 or 260 out, depending on how you have the taps wired. But if I put 260 in, the secondary side, then out of the primary side I'll get 480 volts, and that's pretty cool. And if you didn't know, that's actually completely legal to do in a professional installation by a contractor. And you do have to derate the transformer sometimes, and what I mean by that is this is 11 kVA, and if I wire it backwards I might only be able to use 9 kVA of that, and a kVA is a kilovolt amp, for those of you that don't know. So I want to use this as a step-up and step-down transformer, and primarily for a rotary phase converter that is only 240 volts right now, that I want to be able to convert up to 480 volts 3-phase. So in the Delta configuration, the output of the phase converter is so imbalanced that if I try to put that voltage into the transformer flips out and doesn't like it because it wants a balanced voltage, where on the rotary phase converter I might have 230 volts on one leg, 230 volts on the other, and then on the generated leg I might have 215 or I might have 260, and that's a very large imbalance for the transformer, and it does not like that. So today I'm going to convert this transformer to a star-star configuration. Now earlier I mentioned some code mumbo jumbo that is legal to wire a transformer backwards, and it is in most states, but I'm not sure how agreeable with the code it is to change the configuration of your transformer. So if you have any questions about that, you might want to ask the electrical code, because I don't know. This is not a professional installation, and this is for my own test and use purposes. So as you can see here, we have H2, X3, XO, or X0, H1, X2, H3, and X1. That is how those correlate. So your X's are the low side. That is why there's 4 of them. So X0 is your neutral. X1, 2, and 3 are your lines of that star configuration. And then H2, or H1, 2, and 3 are all the high side lines, which are wired in a delta configuration. And as you can see, there are jumpers on each of the windings that connect to the next transformers, or next windings input, so that way it ends up in a delta configuration. So you can see those jumpers down there. If my camera would focus, sorry about that. 1, 2, and 3. And so what we're going to do with that is, instead of wiring them into the next winding, if we put them all together across here, then that is how we're going to get our star configuration. And in case you were wondering, these other loops on the front of the windings here are the taps that change the voltage. So you'll have 483 volt tap. Now this is if your input voltage is perfect, or what you're using is perfect. Wow. Focus, please. Okay. Still won't focus. Okay, well the top one is 483 volts. The second one is 460 volts. And the third tap is 437. And I believe it goes 132, so, or, sorry, 213. And so these are the highest voltage tap for each winding. I'm going to start by removing the bottom taps that connect into each winding that make that star or delta configuration. I'm going to start by removing those from each of the lugs, which they're just bolted on below. So here we go. Okay, so we're back. The lugs are removed on the bottom, so now I should be able to just pull these wires through up here, and I am. So there's the jumpers, and I'm going to go ahead and explain how I'm going to do this, but just a couple recommended configurations. If you still want to be able to use this transformer for its original intended purpose, the star and delta configuration, then you might want to put these leads on a contactor and wire the contactor in such a way to where in one position it will keep the transformer in its original state of being, and in another position, on or off, whichever you choose, the contactor would set it up into the star configuration here, so you can have more or less choices for how you wire it. So now I'm going to put these lugs all together on one of these coils, and then I'll add a wire, and that will be our neutral, our new neutral for the for that star configuration. So anyways, a couple other things you could do. You could mount one of these in your enclosure across the top, obviously not on the core. You could mount one of these DIN rails with a couple connectors in your housing to connect these two, or you can just do what I'm doing, which is just going to connect them from lug to lug. And something you want to be careful with on these style of taps is these are directly these are actually parts of the winding. So if you break one of these off, well, you'll lose that winding, and you'll have to get it rewound, or you can just kiss your transformer goodbye. So in this case, I'm going to be very careful not to break that off. And this apparently is the wrong size. Okay. How about that? Aha! Okay. Now obviously, this transformer is powered off, because if it wasn't, I would be, I don't know, probably shot across the room or something. Especially if it was 480. So, tip, don't work on your transformer live. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do some voltage tests on it. Currently, I just have the transformer some of the taps hooked up to a Variac right now, just to give me a good little test supply. It's actually a 120 volt Variac, so I wouldn't have to hook up the whole 220 volt setup, so, or 240. Anyways, so between X2 and X1, I have 120.6 volts. I got that pretty close on the Variac. And let's see what we have between X0 and X2. Yep, half the voltage, so about 60 volts per leg there. Yeah, it's 5 volts because there's nothing going into the X3 leg. Oh, by the way, the noise you're hearing is in the camera is the constant focus that the camera's trying to maintain. I don't like this camera, but I'm working with it. So between two of the high legs right now, by the way, I have this set up so that this winding and this winding are both powered, but this one isn't. That's why I have 5 volts across this one. It's not receiving any magnetic flux or energy or whatever right now. So between H1 and H3, I'm getting 209 volts, which is pretty close to 208, which is the ratio that I'd be getting with the taps I'm on right now. So your mileage may vary. And then between H1 and H2, I'm getting 114 volts. Let's go ahead and test what we get between H3 and H2. 95 volts. So yeah, you can get some weird voltages if you're not directly powering that leg. And most of the time, if you're getting a really odd voltage just by a leg just sitting over here not doing anything, or a phase sitting over here not doing anything, then you probably won't be able to put a load on it. So if you are getting a really odd voltage, you probably won't be able to power anything off that leg because there is no primary active in that leg, so obviously the secondary is not going to be doing anything either, except maybe just sitting there and acquiring some power from another coil or winding. So yeah, we did get the voltage we want off of single phase. We're getting 208, so I might play with some other taps and see what I get, but that's close enough for me for today, so I guess we'll wrap this video up. Okay, now then, if this is if you're gonna leave your transformer in a star-star configuration, this is probably the way to go, with just wires connecting the taps. If not, then I'd recommend going with a contactor to switch it between star or delta, or however you want to configure that high side or low side, depending on what kind of transformer you have. Maybe want to add some control wiring to that, to be able to switch between them. I don't know, up to you. Anyways, in this configuration, it's just going to stay in a star configuration with the, this is without a neutral. I don't have another wire connected right now, but when I want to, or if I want to, I can add a crimp-on lug to a piece of 12 or 10 gauge stranded, and have a neutral in this high side star configuration. But anyways, if that's how you're planning to leave it, then you're done, and this is now a star-star transformer. And Yeah, if you're going to use it in single phase, do remember that these windings are not normally meant to handle single phase current. So if this is a 13.8 amp transformer at 3-phase, then you're going to want to derate that. I don't know how much you're going to need to derate it. It also depends on what temperature rise you're going to be, within. But this is within a garage, so if I was running this thing all out, then it'll be in perfect conditions to be run at full load, because this is a 150 degree rise and 220 degree maximum insulation class. So this is fine as is, and yeah, I think that's it for today's video on how to rewire your transformer into a star-star configuration. Maybe soon here I'll hook up the phase converter and we can test out our voltages and see what we get. So other than that, Logie Chem 10 out, and peace.